331 in favour. The majority has been achieved, so the motion of censure has been passed. No need for a second motion. The conclusion for the bicameral committee for the 2025 Social Security Finance Bill will be considered rejected. Given this vote, which was in conformity with Article 50 of the Constitution, and therefore the Prime Minister must tender his resignation to the President. This session is now closed.
Well, there you go. The French Prime Minister Michel Barnier has lost the no confidence vote. That means he is the shortest-serving French Prime Minister since 1958. Michel Barnier losing the no confidence vote. Well, let's bring in our international affairs editor, Dominic Waghorn. I mean, what now?
Yeah, so that motion of censure, they had to get it 288 for it to pass, and they got 50 more than that, so a resounding vote against Michel Barnier. He has managed to last longer than Liz Truss, but just been in the job for 2 months. I mean, he could stay in the job if Emmanuel Macron keeps him in it, but that's unlikely. So he's likely to resign immediately, and then Macron has to find someone else to take on what is effectively a poison chalice or a hospital pass, however you want to put it, because it's a very difficult job. And the challenge now for Macron is that there can't be any more elections until July. So the maths in the arithmetic in the National Assembly doesn't change, and there's no appetite, it seems, for the kind of austerity reforms that Macron's been trying to push through, or Barnier was trying to push through as part of the government, reforms which are required to kind of restore confidence in the French economy. The problem the French have is that there's been a gap for a long time between the amount the state spends and the amount it brings in revenue, so that's called the deficit, and he's been trying to resolve that. And at the beginning of his short-lived term in office back in September, he seemed to have sort of a period of time where the far-right party, the National Rally under Marine Le Pen, seemed prepared to do business with him. But that honeymoon didn't last very long. They began to smell blood, and then they turned on him. And then not just the far-right, but the far-left, the left-wing coalition that won the elections that the snap elections he brought about in the summer after the far-right did so well in the European elections. Both those blocs then turned on him. So his fate was really sealed once that happened. So this was a foregone conclusion, bar some kind of miracle saving him. And the challenge for France now is that we're looking possibly at a months-long, prolonged period of uncertainty. So that's politically very awkward, but also financially very difficult. The longer that goes on, the greater the chance of the cost of borrowing increases. If the markets turn against France, that is a big challenge. So that debt crisis begins to spiral. So Macron can stay in power until 2027. And when Charles de Gaulle created the constitution for the Fifth Republic, it was kind of based on the premise that the French are ungovernable, that Parliament will go through these periods of turmoil and tumult, and therefore the French president is given great powers, great executive powers. Macron can use them, but the longer he does so, the greater the impression of him ruling in an undemocratic way. And so if he is ultimately forced out, that could make it easier for the far right to get into power. So there's a huge amount at stake here, both financially for France, economically, politically for Macron, crucially for this country at the heart of the Eurozone, but also what's happened tonight could increase the chances of the far right finally doing what they wanted to do for decades, get their hands on power in France.
Could be, as you say, have very, very large consequences what happened today. Dominic Waghorn, thank you very much indeed.